There are times where the game I really want to review just wasn't working out. I wanted to review Super Trucks Racing on PS2 this week, but it turns out I really suck at the game. One bad spin out, which is stupidly easy to do it seems, and I'm out of the race and moving for the reset button. So to keep on a schedule, I went to my collection and decided to play something a bit less time consuming. The game that won that debate is, obviously, Puss in Boots: Perro's Great Adventure on the NES. Who the heck is Perro, I hear you ask? Well, he's a cat who was labeled a traitor by a Count Grumman due to him eating a mouse and exiting the kingdom. Perro was supposed to murder the mouse. So somehow, time travel was involved and Perro is now hunting down... You know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. This story makes absolutely zero sense. Mentions of time travel, an unnamed mouse friend, and cat kingdom law have no bearing on your goals of the game. Just know that you need to go from point A to point B in every stage in typical platformer fashion. Except this grand adventure isn't solely platforming. In fact, only about half of the game will have you leaping over any objects. In addition to the normal side-scrolling fare, Perro mans a bunch of vehicles, from a ship, to a submarine, to even a hot air balloon. In each of these sections, you simply need to move forward and use your missiles to shoot down any threats. Simple enough. As for the platforming, well, something just feels off. Perro has the normal options available to him: shoot, duck, and jump. But jumping? It springs Perro forward in a burst of speed, propelling him forward faster than standard running. It's definitely a bit jarring at first, but thankfully, you'll get used to it quickly. Perro also has 3 different weapons available to him while he's on foot. His pistol can fire up to 2 bullets simultaneously, which also travel the length of the screen. The bombs are a bit more limited in range, but the explosion may take out any foes that get too close. There's also a boomerang that's perhaps larger than Perro himself, which flies in a high arc and needs to return to Perro before he can attack again. Truthfully, 95% of the stages are easily cleared without even bothering to change weapons. The boomerang is useful for the first 2 bosses, but other than that, the standard pistol will do the job. You'll quickly find out that the game itself is unusually easy. Most people know of the phrase NES hard, but this is at the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Puss in Boots can be completed in a single sitting with little issue. There were really only 2 parts of the game that hung me up. This area in London that has you really testing your patience with the jumping, at least until I realized that I could jump on the upper platforms, and the final boss, which has the game culminate in an extremely steep difficulty spike. It wouldn't surprise me if you were able to get to this room without losing a single life, as the game seriously is that simple to play. But the final boss tests you by presenting both the evil Count and an evil Wolf Doctor, which ambush you from both sides of the screen and begins shooting at you. You need to defeat the Wolf first, and knowing that the Count won't damage you by touch at this point may help you get through the battle. Once you defeat the Wolf, you can shoot at the Count, who for some reason looks like a clown. Once he is brought to justice, Perro enters one final door and... what is Perro doing on that Statue of Liberty spike? Anyway, Perro just stares at you, you press A to move on to the credits, and then you're back to the title screen. Game over, man. Game over. And to think, you can complete this game in about 10 minutes. Seriously, it took me 12 minutes to reach this point, and I died a few times at the final boss. In all, from start to finish and going through a few playthroughs and continues to reach the end, it took me less than an hour. Imagine getting this game brand new and completing it within the first hour. And this isn't a game with a ton of replay value either. Once you finish it, there's not really a ton of reason to go back to it. Sadly, the graphics and music of the game are just as subpar as the gameplay. The platforming sections are pretty bland, linear areas with minimal reasons to jump around, whereas the music is composed of lackluster tracks that are completely forgettable. I will admit I like the hot air balloon level song, but the stage is over just as quick as the rest of them, so before it can get into your head, the level is done and you move on. Kind of like the rest of the game, I suppose. And that's Puss in Boots: Perro's Great Adventure. Or more accurately, Perro's So-So Adventure. There's not really much to see here. The best way I can sum it up is by 2 words: bargain bin. I had several thoughts while playing the game that kinda compared it to unlicensed crap you'd see from Color Dreams, but this is a few notches above those kinds of games. Puss in Boots isn't an absolute train wreck of a game, but it's not exactly a fun one either. Final score? 3 out of 7. This is Reaper. Happy fragging.